Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Have you ever felt like you were just living on a fault line, like waiting for the ground to just crack open?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. And that's the kind of chilling tension that The Quiet Wife builds. And so we're diving deep into its world today. We're
Awesome.
talking psychological thriller, folks, so buckle up.
Oh, yeah.
And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives just like this one. You can find a link to the book The Quiet Wife by Diane Saxon in the description below. Okay, so the story revolves around Soriah, a successful athlete, seemingly happy but harboring a dark secret, a trauma from 21 years ago that threatens to shatter her present.
Yeah, and I think what's so clever about this book is how it uses the dual timeline to pull you back and forth between Sorayah's, seemingly perfect present life and the events that led to this buried trauma.
Yeah.
It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. You know the impact is coming, but you can't look away.
Right. And it starts with this seemingly ordinary discovery. Soriah finds a positive pregnancy test,
Uh-huh.
and it's not hers. And this simple act throws her entire world into a tailspin. Suddenly, the cracks in her seemingly perfect life become impossible to ignore.
Yeah, it's such a brilliant way to introduce this undercurrent of unease. And she even describes her house in a way that foreshadows the darkness to come, like talking about the monsters that dwell in the dark.
Right.
It's like the house itself is holding its breath, waiting for the truth to explode.
Yeah. And that sense of foreboding only intensifies when her husband, Marcus, announces that he's going away for work. And you can feel Sorayah's anxiety growing. It's like she's trapped in this beautiful cage and the door's about to swing open.
Yes, and just as that anxiety reaches like a fever pitch, the story transports us back 21 years to Soriah as a teenager at Shrewsbury Sixth Form College.
Okay.
This is where we meet Craig, a classmate who develops this obsessive infatuation with her.
And this isn't your typical teenage crush. Craig is intense, possessive, and even crosses the line by kissing Soriah without her consent.
Exactly. And even though the school disciplines him, his obsession doesn't fade. He continues to watch Soriah from afar. And that sense of being observed, of being stalked, casts a shadow over her entire teenage experience.
It's creepy. Then back in the present, Soriah receives a letter, the first communication from Craig in 21 years.
Oh.
It's a chilling reminder that the past isn't really past, especially when it involves someone who fixated on you so intensely.
This letter is such a catalyst. It shatters the illusion of safety that Soriah has built around herself.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the trauma she's tried so hard to bury resurfaces, and it's clear that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
And it escalates quickly. The letter is followed by flowers, then a photograph. Each item is a carefully calculated step in Craig's twisted game, designed to unsettle and control Soriah from afar.
Oh, totally. It's psychological warfare.
Psychological warfare, yeah.
And it's all the more disturbing because it mirrors the pattern of his behavior from their teenage years. This time, though, his actions are even more calculated, more sinister.
So we're left with Soriah in the present, increasingly terrified, as she realizes the extent of Craig's obsession. Meanwhile, the story plunges us back into the past, leading up to the pivotal event that will change everything. Soriah's kidnapping.
And this is where we see the full extent of Craig's manipulative nature. He doesn't act alone. He uses Gilly, Soriah's best friend, to lure her to a party where he then drugs and abducts her.
Wow. It's a betrayal on multiple levels. Not only does Craig violate Soriah's trust, but he also exploits the bond between her and Gilly, turning it into a weapon against her.
Right. And this betrayal cuts deep, highlighting the vulnerability of trust and the devastating consequences when that trust is shattered. It's a wound that will continue to fester throughout the story.
Yeah, it's huge. Then we're thrown into the harrowing reality of Soriah's captivity. It's not just the physical abuse, but the psychological torture that Craig inflicts, the way he isolates and manipulates her, using a twisted mix of threats and declarations of love.
It's a chilling portrayal of the dynamics of abuse. And Saxon doesn't shy away from depicting the profound psychological damage that this kind of trauma inflicts. It leaves you wondering how anyone could survive such an ordeal.
And just as we're reeling from the intensity of Soriah's captivity, the story throws us another curveball. Back in the present, we find out that Soriah is pregnant.
Oh, wow.
It's a revelation that adds another layer of complexity to an already tangled web of emotions and trauma.
This is where the book really starts to delve into the long-term impact of trauma. Soriah is now faced with navigating not only her own fear and anxiety, but also the responsibility of bringing a new life into a world that suddenly feels even more dangerous and unpredictable.
Yeah. Her decision to confront Gilly, who's now working at a garden center, becomes this pivotal moment. It's like she's trying to reclaim some control to force a reckoning with the past.
Yes, and it's this drive for answers that propels the narrative forward. We know the confrontation is coming, and the suspense is almost unbearable.
But before that confrontation unfolds, we get a brief but crucial flashback to the past. The twist. Craig's mother discovered Soriah and called the police, leading to his arrest.
Oh, wow. That's a detail that completely reframes our understanding of the events. Not only does it reveal Gilly's complicity in the kidnapping, but it also raises questions about the role of bystanders and the complexities of accountability.
Right. Back in the present, Soriah arrives at the garden center, ready to face Gilly and demand answers. But just as they're about to speak, the unthinkable happens. Gilly is murdered and Soriah is left reeling in shock and confusion.
It's a brutal twist that throws everything into chaos. Suddenly, the past isn't just a source of pain and anxiety, it's a present-day threat. And it raises the stakes dramatically.
Right. Now, we're not just dealing with the psychological fallout of trauma, we're dealing with a murder mystery. The question is no longer what happened, but who is responsible and what will happen next. It's like the ground has literally shifted beneath her feet. She's gone from seeking answers to being thrust into a whole new nightmare.
Yeah, and it's interesting how this murder forces a sort of parallel between the past and the present. Just as Soriah was a victim of Craig's manipulation in the past, she's now a victim of circumstance in the present. She's constantly being acted upon rather than taking control.
Yet, amidst this chaos, she makes some incredibly difficult decisions. She gives birth and chooses to give the baby up for adoption.
Yeah, I think that speaks volumes about her resilience. Even when faced with unimaginable trauma, she's still trying to make the best choices for herself and for the child. It's a powerful testament to her strength of character.
Absolutely. And even as she's grappling with this loss, the legal ramifications of the past continue to unfold. We see a brief but impactful scene from Gilly's trial, where she's sentenced for her role in the kidnapping.
Right. It's a reminder that actions have consequences, even years later, and it underscores the complexity of guilt and accountability. Gilly was both a victim and a perpetrator, and the court has to weigh those competing narratives.
Then comes a revelation that truly rocks Sorayah's world. She discovers Marcus's affair with Nola. And to make matters worse, Nola is pregnant. It's a betrayal that cuts deeper than anything she's experienced so far.
Oh, wow. It's like the final pillar of her carefully constructed life crumbles. The marriage she thought was a safe haven turns out to be built on lies and deceit. It's a devastating blow, but it also becomes a catalyst for change.
It's interesting how this personal betrayal mirrors the broader theme of manipulation that runs throughout the book. From Craig's controlling behavior to Gilly's complicity, Soriah has been surrounded by people who have used her for their own ends.
That's a great observation. And this realization is a turning point for Soriah. It forces her to confront the patterns in her own life, the ways in which she has allowed herself to be controlled and manipulated. It's a painful process, but it's also a necessary one for her to finally break free.
And just as she's starting to piece her life back together, another threat emerges from the shadows. Craig, released from prison, begins to make his presence known. It's like he's a ghost from her past, haunting her present.
Ugh, it's so creepy. Saxon masterfully ratchets up the tension in this section. The fear is palpable as Craig lurks around Soriah's house, a constant reminder that the trauma she's tried to escape is still very much alive.
And then, the story explodes in a terrifying climax. Craig breaks into Soriah's house, leading to a violent confrontation with Marcus. The fight ends in Marcus's death and Craig's arrest.
It's a shocking and brutal scene, but it also highlights the destructive power of obsession. Craig's fixation on Soriah has consumed him, leading to violence and, ultimately, his own downfall.
But the story doesn't end there. There's one final jaw-dropping twist waiting to be revealed, and it involves a character we thought was on the periphery of the story. Kelvin, the son Soriah, gave up for adoption.
This is where the book's exploration of trauma takes an even darker turn. Kelvin, who we initially viewed with sympathy, reveals himself to be manipulative and disturbingly cold.
It's as if the sins of the father have been passed down to the son. Kelvin embodies the legacy of Craig's abuse, a chilling reminder that trauma can ripple across generations.
And that revelation leads us to the most unsettling truth of all. Kelvin confesses to Gilly's murder.
It's a moment that forces us to re-examine everything we thought we knew. It also raises profound questions about the nature of evil, the cyclical nature of violence, and the enduring impact of trauma.
The final confrontation between Kelvin and Soriah is as intense as anything we've seen so far. Kelvin's true nature is on full display. His cruelty, his lack of remorse, his chillingly calm demeanor as he terrorizes his own mother.
It's a heart-stopping scene. But amidst the terror, there's also a glimmer of hope. Soriah fights back. She refuses to be a victim. And even Luna the cat, in a surprising twist, plays a pivotal role in her escape.
Yeah. It's a reminder that help can come from the most unexpected places, and that even in the face of unimaginable darkness, there's still a spark of resilience, a will to survive.
It's almost a relief when Kelvin is finally apprehended, like this dark cloud is lifted even though the storm has left behind a trail of devastation.
Yeah, and that's what makes the final resolution so poignant. The book jumps forward a year, and we see Soriah rebuilding her life. She's pregnant again, surrounded by her loving family, and there's a sense of peace that she's finally found some measure of healing.
But it's not a simple happily ever after, is it?
No.
You can sense that the trauma will always be a part of her, even if it's no longer defining her.
Exactly. The book doesn't shy away from the complexity of trauma and recovery. There are no easy answers, no magic cures. Soriah's journey is a testament to the human capacity for resilience, but it also acknowledges the lasting impact of pain and loss.
It makes you think about how we define strength, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not about forgetting or erasing the past, but about finding a way to live with it, to carry those scars without letting them consume you.
I think that's what resonated with me most about Soriah's story. She doesn't emerge from this ordeal unscathed, but she emerges. She finds a way to keep going, to find love and hope in a world that has shown her so much darkness.
The Quiet Wife is a masterfully crafted thriller, that's for sure. But it's also so much more than that. It's a story about survival, about the enduring power of the human spirit, and about the complexities of healing.
It's a book that stays with you long after you finish reading it. It makes you question, it makes you feel, and it ultimately leaves you with a sense of hope, a belief that even in the darkest of times, there's always the possibility of light.
So what stood out to you most from Soriah's story? What moments resonated with you and why? Share your thoughts and your favorite moments from the book in the comments below. We always love hearing from you. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into books that make you think, feel, and question everything. See you next time.